Hello and welcome to Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs looking to elevate their marketing game. Today we are back for 2025 and we've got an incredible guest to get things started. Over the past 20 years, he has coached everybody from NFL superstars to world championship boxers, Premier League footballers, and some of the biggest CEOs in the world of business. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Lawrence.
Thanks, Jamie. That was a great intro.
We're back strong for 2025.
Here we go.
Perfect. So thanks for joining us, Dan. You're here in Dubai now. You're in the podcast studio. It's great to connect. Before we dig in a little bit deeper, let's go right back to the start. What got you into the world of health, fitness, wellness, performance?
I think for me, Jamie, it was something that at the time, complete transparency, I fell into. I knew I liked the gym, and this is now going back, like you say, 19, 20 years. And I just over time started thinking, okay, I can start getting into this a little bit more. I'm liking what I'm doing here. I was an introvert and still am to a degree. So there was a lot of skills that I've sharpened over the years. But for me, it wasn't, I've got this huge consummate passion to help people at the time. That was something that I certainly mastered over time. Yeah. But at first it was because I liked the gym. And then I've been on this incredible journey over the past 19, 20 years that's taken to some incredible places all over the world and helped, a lot of people.
Unbelievable. Well, I think today's podcast, we're going to split into two pretty distinct areas, aren't we? So we're going to first look at the high performance athletes, these unbelievable people you've worked with, and then move on to the CEOs, business executive, entrepreneurs, everyday man, if you want, how they can make that work. But let's start with these high performance athletes. There's thousands of coaches in the world, ranging from the guys in the pure gym to the guys working with high profile clients, but very, very few people work at the absolute top of the game with those people. How did you get those opportunities? How did it come about?
I think I'll frame it with saying that if a younger practitioner or coach is listening to this, that I did start in not a pure gym, but a Virgin Active many moons ago. So that was the start of the journey for me. And I certainly honed in on a skill set, the art of communication, identifying how to get the best out of an individual. And then over time, got the qualifications to move into the high performance world with pro athletes. And I think from my end, it's identifying your niche, identifying your strengths. And at the time, now boxing was the area that I've had a lot of experience in as head of performance and matchroom boxing for over 7 years. But at the time, strength conditioning and physical preparation was not a thing. It was, militant army style training with no real understanding around training load management. Remember, these are pro athletes. These aren't army individuals. They have to, work hard, but they have to work smart. So that's really what I brought to the fray at the time. I worked with numerous amateur fighters, and then I got my big break with George Groves. I don't know if you remember George.
George Groves, yeah.
Yeah, I had a great journey with George, great friend now, and eventually became world champion at the fourth attempt. But, there was certainly some highs, but got a lot of lows working with George with getting knocked out in front of 80,000 people against Carl Froch at Wembley Stadium, the biggest fight in British boxing history at the time. Yeah. I certainly had to pick myself up from that, as did he. So, lots of lessons were learned. Yeah,
I can imagine. Even though you're the coach, from a performance point of view, I guess from a mindset point of view, you're the person there in that dressing room afterwards, picking up the pieces.
It's tough, and you've probably seen the quotes when you're winning, everyone wants to know. You've got everyone in there taking photos and getting pictures with the belts. When you lose, that's when you really learn a lot about the people around you. And I've been there at the highest level of losing world title fights with a number of individuals, winning world title fights, winning undisputed fights. But it's those moments that how many messages do you get after you lose? And that's where you need a solid team and a support network, because it's a dark place at times, because you can be at the summit of that mountain in your world title fight, but then it takes a lot to pick you back up from that to go again.
I can imagine. So was it, from your perspective, a concentrated effort to think, I want to move from PTing into this high performance coaching, or was it just an opportunity that arose with George and then Eddie and the team brought you into Matchroom in general?
It's a great question, Jamie. And I think at the time, again, I wasn't as singular-minded in knowing what I wanted at that time. I think over the past decade, I've certainly been a lot clearer in terms of the vision and how this impacts that and so on. But I accepted a role at Virgin Active Twickenham, of all places at the time, as their flagship club. They wanted the best practitioners in the UK working for the company in, I didn't even know when this was, 2009, I think it was. And that gave me my first exposure to these pro-level athletes. You had the England rugby boys. Yes, they had their own gym there, but occasionally they'd come up with some other rugby players. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Conversed with them and then started studying a lot more. Got my qualifications and everything, and then started working with some younger fighters. This is obviously over a longer time horizon. And then, as I say, I got my big break with George. Funnily enough, he came to that gym at the time. We conversed and sat down and spoke of how we can work with each other, and that was really it from there. So from there on in, yes, it was very athlete-centered then for the next sort of 8-9 years. And over the past 4 or 5 years, I've worked with high net worth individuals and executives.
Unbelievable. So if we look, like you said, the people you've worked with are truly incredible. Like, not many people can say Super Bowl winners, world championship boxers, even racing car drivers thrown in the mix, aren't they? What is the common thread you found that distinguishes those high-performing athletes from the everyday man or a low-performing athlete?
Yeah, great question, Jamie. I wouldn't say there's one thing. If I can give you 3, it's single-minded focus, being relentless, and showing resilience as well. So the single-minded focus is, Jimmy Iovine talks about this in the Defiant ones when him and Dre sold Beats to Apple for $3 billion or whatever it was. He says, be like a racehorse. The reason racehorses wear blinkers is so they don't miss a step. They don't focus on what's going on left and right. They focus on the goal, the outcome. So we get crystal clear with what success looks like. For an athlete, it's really clear. A lot of my guys, it would be to become a world champion, to win a Super Bowl, to score X amount of goals in the Premier League, win a championship. So that's really clear. But then we reverse engineer the process and put the steps in place to reach that goal. We don't then just focus on it. So that's where we focus on our daily actions that are aligned towards the longer term vision. So you've got to be single-minded. You've got to block out the noise. And you imagine with some of these high-profile athletes, they've got millions of followers on social channels. There's a lot of noise. So if you can't block that noise out, you succumb to it, it's going to be problematic, and it's going to take you away from being single-minded towards that goal. So resilience is super important because we know it's not a linear path. In business, in sports, certainly. Like I say, George Groves became world champion at the 4th attempt. He failed 3 times at the highest level, brutally at Wembley Stadium and in Las Vegas as well. So you've got to show resilience, because when you hit the hump in the road, for me, champions are the people that brush themselves off and keep moving forwards. But the losers are those who hit a hump and just go back to their environment and just go back to the normal way of doing things. So that resilience is super important. And being relentless. Forget what's going on left to right again. Single-minded, be relentless. Block out the noise and just be so aligned towards that goal. And you're going to have to piss a few people off at times. If they don't understand, disregard them, because they've got to be on this journey. Because when they are an elite level athlete, we are just the supporting team. We give them the few percent that can help them get to that level. But they're the supreme athlete. So they've got to block out the noise and focus on themselves, because it's a very short career. They've got to earn as much money as possible and achieve what they can achieve to make history.
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting point there. Because working with, as we'll move on to CEOs, business people, but your average man, there's a huge amount you can give in terms of how to do certain exercises, body parts to focus on. A professional athlete already has 99% of that knowledge locked in. They've done it their entire careers. So where is that real value add for you? Where do you think you give them that extra few percent?
Yeah, again, great point and great understanding on it, Jamie. Is like the sets and reps in the gym are, I don't want to say insignificant, but they're a small part of the bigger picture. It's how you create an environment. And for me, something I say is environment dictates outcomes. I've got to know when to push, when to pull, how to get the best out of this athlete, when to put an arm around them, when to put a rocket up them so they actually perform. And for me, that's the art of communication and knowing your athlete. So that's probably one of my strengths as an individual. Yes, the programming element is important, because certainly in boxing, one of the quick wins that we had is these are high octane type A males, right? And they're foot on the gas all the time. But again, it's not about working harder. In fact, if I wanted them to work harder, they'd break down, they'd get injured, and they wouldn't achieve their goals. So I analysed what they did, and then I identified these high and low days of when to pull back and actually to train smarter. So that was a key as well, that it's not just about the singular session on the micro level, it's about the bigger picture, the macro level of how this impacts that and the dominoes effect. And that's where the education came in. So I think that was important. But the mindset is fundamental as well. Look, these are very focused individuals, but of course, like us, they all have self-doubt. They all have imposter syndrome at times. So it's a matter of having, again, the team around you who champion you. Of course, don't just blow smoke up you. They have to be real with you. And that's probably a key that I have as well, is that I will tell them if they're not adhering to the level that's expected, I have to say that, I cannot be a yes man. My standards are so high. And I think that's why the boxers like it, is I live and breathe high performance in everything that I do. I embody every aspect of it. And I think certainly the younger athletes see that. They see me leading from the front and certainly buy into that as well.
Yeah, I think if we look at the world of sport at the minute, there are so many athletes who, without naming names and calling anything out, there's a lot of athletes who are not achieving their potential. And from the outside looking in, it seems to be largely down to the people they've surrounded themselves with, the agents they've brought in, horribly a lot of the time, their family, who seem to be actually dragging them down. It becomes a cash cow for everyone, doesn't it?
On that, you probably heard of the tall poppy syndrome. Again, environment dictates outcomes. Is when someone kind of goes above the norm, people want to just chop them down and bring them back down to the level. You've probably seen it. I've certainly seen 100%. It in the area that I grew up with. Funny enough, going back to George Groves, he's getting a few name drops on this podcast, but shout out George, is that I went away with George to Big Bear, the San Bernardino Mountains, for 4 weeks ahead of his world title fight against Badu Jack, unsuccessful world title fight. He lost a split decision, fighting on the Mayweather card, Mayweather-Berto in 2016, I believe, or probably before that, 2014, I think it was. And I know that everyone in my area was saying, why is he going? Why is he going away? Because it was one of my friend's weddings. I actually flew back for my friend's wedding from Las Vegas to go to the wedding to then go back to the training camp. But even then, there was, I know, negative noise and negative energy around that. Thankfully, since then, they've apologized. But it was, again, kind of outgrowing your environment and everyone wanting to chop you down. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people is so key. We talk about Carol Dweck's research of 30 years ago, growth versus fixed mindset. Some people are fixated in their ways. They don't believe they can grow. And we know, based on Dr. Andrew Huberman's research out of Stanford, neuroplasticity, the brain can grow. The reason we're having this powerful conversation, I know I'm going to walk away with some gems and refine my way of speaking, and hopefully some listeners are going to get one or two things that they can take away as well. That's the growth mindset. We can all grow, absorb information and improve.
I think if we look at everyone, people are limited by their friends, professional athletes, business people, etc. A lot of people, if you're still friends now with the same group of 20 people you were 20 years ago,
it's sad to say.
It's sad, isn't it? Because people will only stay with the people in their circumstance. No one likes that person who's overshining them or undershining them, and it all comes down. But when we look at them professional athletes, there was a great story I read where one of the boxers pulled you aside in Vegas after one of the fights and said, I thought you were fucking expensive, but you're worth every penny. So the guys are obviously... Do you ever get that where at the start they maybe didn't see your value and towards the end?
Well, look, I'll say the name. That was Josh Taylor.
It was Josh Taylor.
Josh beat Jose Ramirez in May 2021 in Las Vegas for the undisputed championship of the world. Unfortunately, it was in COVID time, so just coming out the back of it, so we didn't really get the promo that he deserved for that. But for clarity, for anyone listening, that's every belt in the 140-pound division. He was like the third man in history ever to do it. So it was huge in terms of what he achieved. And he put his arm around me after a couple of drinks as well in celebration and said, Dan, I thought you were effing expensive, but you're worth every penny, in his Scottish accent. And I thought that for me was really quite powerful, is that you've got to remember, even in boxing, even at the summit of the mountain, right, these guys aren't earning huge money. There's obviously the mega fights, the likes of Anthony Joshua's and Tyson Fury's. Yes, they earn life-changing money, but slightly below that, and even still these kind of superstars, they're not earning huge amounts. So look, I have to charge accordingly at the time, but no, that was certainly a nice moment with Josh. And
I think with that professional sports, from a business perspective and a personal perspective for you, there must be some real challenges arise, because you go in there, at the end of the day, you're a guy being paid very well in a lot of circumstances to deliver a certain product. You've then got the thing that, like you said, you can be in camp with these guys for 4, 6, 8 weeks. There's bound to become some personal friendships or some personal difficulties arise. How do you keep track of that business, the personal relationships? It can be a minefield, I guess.
With challenge. And the younger version of myself, 10 years ago, I'd have taken your left arm off in terms of saying what I've achieved now. I'm blessed to have that. And I've, been supporting them, and gone all in with them and go above and beyond for them. And you can ask any one of them. But it's their journey, and I've just supported that, but I'm blessed to achieve what I have achieved with these athletes. But it's hard because you've got to be all in with them. I'm contemplating going away with an athlete who's going to be in a mega fight. I can't mention too much at this stage this year. And again, there's huge opportunity costs. I've moved everything over to Dubai now, having some incredible conversations around business opportunities here. But there's going to be an opportunity cost. So I'll, at this present moment, just do pros and cons, a line down the middle, and just weigh it up. Thankfully, this athlete is huge. It's a huge fight. It's a mega fight. It's going to go down in British boxing history at a stadium. The guy's got a huge following, a huge brand. So there's certainly some positives. And look, financially, he is certainly going to be looking after me for it. But I think for me now, Jamie, I'm moving away from that and taking the principles of pro sport and working with these executives who do want to have access to the best. They don't have a lot of time. We have a world-class team of doctors who can take the principles of sport and bring them into the boardroom to optimize their health and performance. So it has been a challenge. I have to be very tactile, cute, and careful of what I say yes to. In fact, I think there's a lot of power in saying no these days. So yeah, for now, with the boxing side, I think the ship has sailed. There might be one or two that I do continue to work with, but certainly on my terms now.
Yeah, and I love that. The power of saying no is what I'm drilling into everyone at the minute, because even in our game, the worst mistakes you ever make are working with the wrong people.
Agreed.
Because when you pick the wrong people, you're stuck with them. You can't just ditch them. It's a disaster every time.
And it's not just time. It's energy. It's how does that impact your energy? If they are, like a battery, a plus or a minus, certain people are plus, certain are minus. And if they take that energy away, that impacts everything, right?
The people you surround yourself with, you feel you. It's also their love for what you do starts dropping because it very much just becomes just work. You feel you're being taken advantage of. Yeah. They probably feel the same. And it's all becomes negative. But that nicely now brings us into the more commercial business aspect. Because like you said there, these professional boxers, they might pay you well, but you are theirs 100% for that period of time. We've then got these high-end executives, commercial, who are happy with having you for 1 hour a day or however it works. There's a wider audience to hit. When did you first sort of identify this market?
Yeah. It goes back. So I haven't really spoken about this openly. I suppose I can now. So look, I've worked with Qatari royal family, Saudi royal family. I've traveled the world with them. I've put some incredible programs together for them and got some great results. Like we're talking sub 10% body fat with people who were quite high on that on that side of things, shall we say?
Saudi's not known for this healthy lifestyle, is it?
Right. Well, you said it. Yeah. And but no, joking aside, got some great results, and it was great because I had a chef, I had my nutritionist come in. We were doing building nutrition plans, traveling the world with him. It was truly immersive, and that was all the way back in 2017. So I'd done all of that. I'd still, even though working with the athletes, I still had my company Perform 365. I still had a remote coaching online business. I was still working with other individuals when I was doing in-person work. I stopped doing in-person work pre-COVID. I now performance manage. We have a team. We've got a team of 15 people. We have doctors in every different area. Best in class. We've got some physios who've been with Arsenal for 8 years who now have their own business, who specialise around shoulders. We've got blood work specialists looking at things like blood lipid profile, testosterone, which are obviously very important these days, certainly with a male demographic who are looking to optimise their performance. Our nutritionist is Dr. James Morton, PhD, the head of performance nutrition with England Rugby. So I've surrounded myself with seriously like the Avengers of high performance. It's incredible, and they're great. So now, kind of working with that demographic, I move into Dubai. I'm actually identifying the landscape a little bit. I moved here. Well, it's nearly a year. It's a year in, I think I've been here 10 months, but I haven't really been here, Jamie. I think we spoke offline. I've travelled so much now with business. Just got back from Napa Valley, Sonoma with a client. But I'm excited to really get things going here now. And I've seen that there's a renewed appetite for an element of in-person work. So look, I don't offer that, my team do. Yeah. I performance manage, I guide, I do a lot around behavioural change, a lot around human psychology, because that's fundamental. As you said, it's not just about the sets and reps in the gym or following a program, it's the accountability piece. I've also seen in Dubai that there's a huge appetite for the community element, certainly around business, around powerful conversations. We've had some really cool clients sign up, some big billionaires from India and other places. So that's certainly something that we're going to be building here alongside all of the other support that we have.
Okay, perfect. So if we look at these high-level CEOs who've achieved fantastic things in the business world, we then got the high-performance athletes. What traits do you see in common between them?
I see massive crossover. A lot of people see that it's night and day. I generally don't, because going back to my 3 key traits of single-minded focus, resilience, and being relentless, I see all of that with the high-performance CEO. I think there's other aspects of working with a team. So an athlete would have to have a head of performance, a strength conditioning coach, a nutritionist, a physiotherapist, a head coach, and a few others in there. So they're the supporting cast to support the athlete. Well, the CEO certainly doesn't do it by themselves, do they? The Art of Delegation, the book Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Great read. don't tell me how to do something. Find me someone who can do it. So, like I say, I've got a team of 15 at the moment, and I wouldn't be able to do anything without them. Like, I delegate all of the smaller stuff, and I just deal with the clients, the stuff I actually enjoy. So, I think, working with a team is important. Leading a team, leading from the front, again, is vitally important. But then there's also like the physical and the psychological element of our 4 pillars, Jamie, at Perform 365 are super simple: training, nutrition, recovery, and mindset. And we say, as we film this now in January, certainly with New Year's resolutions, there's going to be a lot of noise around health and performance because over the past 5 years, it's gone vertical in terms of the potential of the business side of things, and people are jumping on it, which, I'm not going to be too negative about it. It is what it is. It's like anything. When there's money to be made, people jump all over it. But I think if you can decipher the BS and focus on the fundamentals, you'll get where you need to go. So nail your training. Obviously, we go deeper than that. Nail your nutrition, nail your recovery, because you can only train as hard as what you can recover from. And the mindset is really the glue that holds the other 3 pillars together. So all of those traits from athletes and CEOs, I see a huge synergistic approach between the two.
Massive crossover. And I also think then the business world's got its own challenges slightly separately as well, in that if you look at a high-performance CEO, they've been under an extreme period of stress. Yeah. Whereas an athlete's career, like a boxer's going for that one big fight, or a footballer might be on a 10-year career. Yeah. There's a lot of CEOs sustained in a high-pressure environment for decades of day after day stress. They've got a period where they can't put as much time into health and fitness as a performance athlete. They've then got a schedule that is affected massively by travel, late night meetings. A lot of times we're still in a world, unfortunately, where a deal has to be done over a glass of wine, or in some case 3 bottles. Yeah. So how do you bring that element of ensuring the performance, but also taking into account all these...
The lifestyle
that we all unfortunately have inflicted upon us?
Yeah, again, great point and awareness of it. And look, we don't follow a reductionist, restrictive approach. We've got to have an awareness, which we do. We've got an in-depth understanding of our executives because we've worked with so many over the years. And we're talking, top performing CEOs. And the one that screams out is Casper Bass, the founder of Joe and the Juice. He won't mind me saying this. Casper loves his expensive red wine, but he also places great value on his training. Yeah. So we look at data to drive our decision-making process. So Casper will have a Whoop or an Aura ring, one of the two, which simply monitors a number of metrics, mainly around sleep and readiness to train. So Casper would have, and we did this study, 2 glasses of his lovely red on a Tuesday evening. Yeah. He'd then have back squats on a Wednesday morning, an exercise that he's looking to really hit some PBs on. His data was very good. No issues. His readiness to train was above 80. He went in, he attacked, he dominated, he felt incredible for it. Then the next week, he did the same thing. Those 2 glasses then became 2 bottles. Yeah. He then tried to replicate that workout. His readiness to train was at like 20, 30. He felt fatigued. He had cognitive fog. He went in to try to do it, and he fell off the cliff and didn't do it. And then he anchored a negative thought process towards that specific exercise, but it wasn't. It's just his readiness of not every day being created equal was not right. So this is where, again, going back to not every day is created equal, you've got to identify that certain days we're good to push, but certain days we've got to pull. Just like with the athletes, this might be centered around higher acute spikes in stress. If you've got a huge deal you're looking to close, it's probably smart not to be trying to hit some PBs with heavy lifts in the gym at that time. It might be smart to try and re-regulate your autonomic nervous system by doing some breathing work, doing some yoga, maybe doing some ice bars, maybe doing a low-end run or a bike session that's green on our traffic light systems. We use a traffic light system, Jamie, it's just for... pretty simple for everyone, is green is a low day, so that might just be like a 5k run or 50 minutes on a bike, very low stress on the system. I'm sure you'd agree, your heart rate 120 to 150. Then red is like, okay, this is high intensity, this is tough, I've just done a half marathon, right? That's a red, which I shouldn't have done before this, but anyway. And again, you can see not every day is created equal. So if a CEO is in a chronically stressed state, they're traveling across multiple time zones, then they've got to be cognitively sharp and close this deal. Not really smart to fill the stress bucket up with even more stress, now training stress. So now it's just being smart with that. And that's what we do. We look at their training week. We communicate with them in terms of their travel schedule. We plan ahead in terms of the restaurants they eat at. If they're going to Rocker, if they're going to Gaucho, wherever they're going, they can let us know in advance and we can advise upon what they should be eating. Again, it's not a reductionist approach of eating chicken and broccoli. Yeah. If you want to go out and have 2 glasses of red wine, you can go out and have 2 glasses of red wine. That's absolutely fine. And we have a real good understanding of what works for them.
I think that's an unbelievable value, because I think CEOs and high-performing business people in general have, if we call it, a slightly addictive personality or an all or nothing approach.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for example, in January now, you can bet that half of them are hammering 7 workouts a day, gone from being on the booze all Christmas to now they're on dry January, they're lifting heavy, and then they seem to have that approach where it's so heavy in, unsustainable. Then their work starts to suffer because they're putting all the effort into that. Like you said, you can't perform at that 4 p.m. meeting when you were running a half marathon at 5 a.m. And it's that balanced approach. And again, some of the stuff I saw you'd written about where this bullshit in the fitness industry is claiming everyone should be doing 6 workouts a week, should be running every day, should be doing ice baths every day, and it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
So you really take that very tailored approach to them.
Absolutely. Like, Jamie, let's use you. If you came to me, I don't know your training history, but let's just say you hadn't done a lot for
exactly
6
like
months,
I just described.
So let's just say that, right? I would not start with 5 sessions a week. I'm setting you up for failure. Yeah. There's too much of an acute spike based on, without boring you too much, Tim Gabbett's research. This is something we do with the athletes. Anything above a 12% spike on the previous week heightens injury risk by anywhere between 21 and 49%. That's profound. And let me break that down further. If you've just done a 5K, don't then go and do a 10K. Yeah. Don't then go and do a 15K. Do another 5K the next week. Do maybe a 6K, do another 6K, do a 7K, and it gradually accumulate more volume over time and don't acutely spike. The problem we've got with New Year's resolutions, which I can certainly champion the intention of a New Year's resolution, New Year, New Me, is people want to go from 0 to hero too quickly. Liken it to a video game. You don't go from level 1 to level 6 right away. You complete level 1, then you go to level 2, and so on. So my advice would be start where you stand, identify where your feet are currently, maybe factor in 2 to 3 sessions a week, maybe 2 lifting sessions and 1 cardio-based session. See how you feel. Now focus on your sleep as well. Okay, am I able to get 7 hours sleep a night? Because you can only train as hard as to what you can recover from. You're putting your body under higher stress than it has been previously. Because again, if we're saying you've gone from 0 to 2 to 3 sessions a week, that's a little bit more stress. Let's recover properly and optimally from that stress. Now we can look at nutrition. The World Health Organization's requirements around protein intake are ludicrously low. 0.8 grams per kilo body weight. For 100 kilo male, that's only 80 grams of protein a day, Jamie. So we advise, based on Dr. James Morhan, anywhere between 2 and 2.4 grams per kilo body weight. You're probably thinking, why protein? Well, if you're creating this kind of tissue damage in the gym, you're now lifting weights, we want to help the recovery and regeneration of that tissue. Equally, if your goals are more fat loss orientated, it improves satiety, the feeling of fullness for longer. So we can just make some quick wins around that. We also look at daily non-negotiables, 3 to 5 things that you can do every single day without fail.
Get writing these down.
Literally like brushing your teeth, right? We all, I hope, brush your teeth twice a day, right? Well, do we drink 2 to 3 litres of water a day? Okay, well, if your water levels are very low, start with 2 litres and nail that every single day. There's one tick.
So you put that as everyone's first non-negotiable, the water?
I think certainly in Dubai, I'd be looking at 3 litres.
Yeah.
I'd in Dubai say, okay, I'm going to have an electrolyte tablet every single day. Potassium, magnesium, sodium and calcium is quite important, certainly if your perspiration rate is now higher because you're in the gym. Another one could be, I'm going to hit 2 grams per kilo body weight of protein per day. So for me, you know, what am I now, 76, 77 kilos. So if I'm looking at, I should have said I was 80 kilos, shouldn't I? I might be looking at around 180 grams of protein per day. Okay, there's the next one. The next one might be training or moving in some capacity. And I'm being very tactile in what I say there because I haven't now just said train every day. It might be you train 3 days, but it might be that if you're not training on an untraining day, you're doing 10,000 steps. Yeah. So there's the NEAT principle, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, movement outside the training window. We know that builds up over time to get you close to your goal. So I'm sure you can agree, like those things, I can do that, right?
100%. And people forget them. It's like, someone said this to me last year when I was training quite a lot, and they said there wasn't really massive improvements.
Okay.
And they said, well, what are you doing outside of your training? Yeah. How many steps are you doing a day? And I was like, well, you know what Dubai's like from being here.
Oh, so hard.
I take the steps from the house out to the car and then the car to the office. And it's so true. Even the people that are putting that time in there, you forget about the other 23 hours in the day.
Yeah. Well, we know about like the aggregation of marginal gains. The Sir Dave Brailsford, popularised most recently by James Clear in Atomic Habits. 1% better every day yields a 37 times improvement over the course of years. We shoot this in January. I think that's quite important.
Massive.
If someone's listening to this, just start with small wins every single day and you can quite literally change your life within 12 months. And you're right, if you've got subject A and subject B, they do all the same training, nutrition, sleep, everything's the same. Subject A, maybe like yourself, is maybe doing 2,000, 3,000 steps a day, right? At a push probably, right?
On a good day.
And then subject B does 12, 15,000. as a single day, that's not going to do anything. It's not going to yield any ROI. You do that over a 7-day week. You do that over a month. You do that over 6 months, and so on. You see where we're going with this. Subject B is going to get much better results than subject A.
Yeah.
So yeah, the movement outside of the training is quite important as well.
So we look at this corporate world, and we cut through all the bullshit, and we look at it exactly what it is. So that those high performing athletes, you go in, they've got their goal, and we prepare them as best as possible for that. And if everything goes to plan, there's a Super Bowl ring on their finger, there's a world championship in the hand. Corporate people or high CEOs, they've got their own goals to achieve. How do you sort of facilitate and also track, take the Joe and the Juice guy as an example, achieving those? Is there a set margin for this is going to help you perform better in meetings? Is this going to help you make more money? Is this going to keep your wife slightly happier because you're not in a bad mood? Is that something you kind of do, that 360 approach?
It's the biggest thing that we do on the front end.
Yeah.
Getting crystal clear with vision and where you're going. One of my favourite quotes, if one doesn't know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favourable. You've got to know where you're going, right? Otherwise you're literally treading water. So again, super important in January. So I think, look, do we go granular and specific with their business goals? With some, yes, we do, because we've got to identify what their values are, right? Your values and vision drive every decision. So if they've got a specific goal, well, tell me about that goal. Let's peel the onion back further. I've got to get that intrinsic meaning, that deeper meaning, because again, going back to when we hit a hump in the road, if I don't have that and your goal is lose weight, tone up, we're never going to keep pushing, right? We're going to fall off and then go back to bad habits. So we get super specific with what that goal looks like, absolutely. Whether that's business, whether that's relationship or other. And we use data to drive our decision-making process. So something we say, which really gets our kind of business individuals going, is we say, like in business, what gets measured gets managed. Data and objectivity is key. So we're not just plucking it out of the air. So on the front end, we go quite comprehensive. And if you'll indulge me quickly, Jamie, just on this, I'll explain what these are. We do a DEXA scan, which is the gold standard body composition test, looking at bone mineral density, lean tissue, plus many other metrics. We look at RMR, resting metabolic rate, which someone sits there, they put a mask on, it gives us exactly how many calories they burn at rest. We do a VO2 max test, which is the gold standard test of the cardiorespiratory system, the heart and lungs. There's actually new research by Dr. Peter Attia saying that a greater VO2 max will improve life expectancy and longevity, which is like profound, and reduce mortality rates. So VO2 max test, we do strength diagnostics. So we get this comprehensive test as well as blood work. And then we have our team of doctors who analyze all this data. We have Dr. Padder over in Australia, who's a blood work specialist. He'll look at, where's your testosterone, where's your blood lipid profiles, and then make some interventions around that. We have Dr. James analyzing the DEXA scan and RMR, and we build a nutrition plan on the basis of that. But when I say build a nutrition plan, it wouldn't be, Jamie, go and eat this, here's your plan, because that's so restrictive and reductionist, where you're probably going out closing deals, meeting clients. We underpin everything by education. We educate our clients to make better informed decisions. Yes, early on we can, as I said earlier, go over the menus and things, but over time we jokingly say we want to become redundant, because we want to give them the tools to just go and do what they do. So we educate our clients very, very well. But going back to the goals, when you have data, there is no guesswork to say, this is your starting point, these are your numbers, we know you want to reduce body fat, increase muscle, improve bone mineral density, elevate your testosterone, and then we'll come to why in a second. Then we'll say, okay, your next testing time point is here. There's the accountability piece, because they're not going to want to tell it, like, if we don't achieve, well, that's a problem. We're going to have to address that, right? But then we link all of this into their overall goals. So now, okay, why would heightened levels of testosterone be important? Well, you said there about relationship, one of their big rocks. Well, heightened levels of testosterone is going to mean you're going to bring a better mood every single day in every department, right? And then in the business side of things, okay, well, if I want to be a leader and I want to embody all things high performance and I have a team of 200 people, I want that to be a trickle-down effect to say the CEO of the business now has his shoulders back, his chest proud, he walks into a boardroom and he dominates. Yeah. Not just from a physical point of view, but from a cognitive point of view, because we know, again, high levels of testosterone, feeling better, the mood is better, you're sleeping better, your nutrition is better. You're going to bring your best self to that conversation. Mm-hmm. So now we link it back into what they place value on, their business. So fundamentally, we say, we will make you more money. Sign up with us and we will grow your business. And we've got the data to support that. We've had, the other day, Nathan McNamara, one of our clients, big international CEO, left an incredible testimonial saying, like, I would not have achieved closing this 9-figure deal if we hadn't signed up to the program, which was just like it was really quite powerful.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way you see people. I know people can do it for a short period of time, but there's no way someone can achieve long-term success even if you look at the likes of Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk and that, look at them all now.
Yeah, they're all buying into it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Bezos... I think Jeff Bezos looks like he's done something. I'm not exactly sure what. He's certainly had a bit of growth on his shoulders in the last year, hasn't he?
Definitely. Yeah. But even, you're so right, Jamie. It's like Dana White. Dana White embodied this. He was chronically inflamed. The blood work and doctor said, you're going to die within a year. And now he looks great. Like all of these high-performance CEOs, you've got even like your Kevin Hart's, your Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Obviously, they're slightly different, but the Mark Wahlberg's been championing it. And then even just like you say, the CEOs of these top businesses and organizations, they're now connecting the dots between being optimized, so training, nutrition, recovery, mindset, optimizing their performance and growing their business and serving others. Like, it doesn't take a genius to work it out how there is certainly a direct correlation between the two, right?
And it's interesting as well that you've now found yourself in this very unique position by, you've got the high profile sports people, you've got connections to like a Matchroom, you've got royal family members in the Middle East, you've got these high performing business people. So you've now found yourself facilitating business deals as well, being a connector, introducing people, and that's become, I guess, a string to the bow you never really imagined.
It is, and it's something that I sat on for a long while without, something staring me in the face and realising it. And actually one of the Qataris, I won't say the name, but he said, Dan, I've got these things I want to potentially invest in, health and performance orientated. I've got two ends of the spectrum. I've got the incredible network of high net worth individuals who over the years I've really helped them improve and the trust has been built and they become friends. And then I've also got the incredible practitioners who have their own startup businesses in the health and performance space. And as we spoke about earlier, there's this vertical growth of health and performance. And if you get it right, like the likes of Whoop and all these F&B drinks, liquid death water, I think got valued at however many billion the other day. It's ridiculous, right? Well, let's connect these. You guys have a conversation. And thankfully now some of these individuals have invested in some friends' businesses. It's been incredible, actually. It's not something I'm actively trying to push, but, if there's a connection to be had and I have to do some in-depth research on the actual business to make sure, because your black book of contacts is something that I built up over 20 years and I value those relationships. So I'm not just going to be just connecting the dots to make a bit of money. It's not about that. It's about connecting the people to help those people grow.
Which is just another value add for you that you've then got the ability to, not only am I bringing value to your life, I'm also bringing my contact books to you. You're becoming more and more of an all-round asset to their life. Yeah. Perfect. So we've talked about those phenomenal athletes you've worked with, the unbelievable business people. Now let's look at Dan Lawrence a little bit.
Okay.
So inevitably, by working with such high-profile people over the last decade in particular, your personal brand has grown and grown. You've had, if you go online, you Google Dan Lawrence, there's some big articles out there, Telegraph, Independent, numerous PR pieces. How did that happen? How did it grow? How's it sort of helped you in business?
It's definitely helped me in business. I think leveraging the athlete side of things has been quite powerful. It's something I probably wish I'd have done sooner. And Jamie, again, the landscape as we shoot this 2025 was very different 10 or 12 years ago. So if I'm working with a professional athlete, Instagram was obviously starting then, but it wasn't really a thing that I could get my phone out and start filming and showcasing and documenting the journey.
You were out the door back then.
Yeah, exactly. You'd literally be like, who is this guy? Like, it's got to be behind closed doors. I'm almost their secret sauce, if you like. And I had these conversations with George, because me and George are so close, and I was trying to get some bits then, but in the right way. Yeah. And again, I never forget the conversations that we had. And now he said, Dan, you were right about this whole social media thing. He literally said it about a year ago. But I wish I'd have documented it a hell of a lot more. But, maybe I'd have a hell of a load more followers. But it goes back to your values, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And integrity and professionalism are very high on my list. And the great thing is with my business is, look, I don't need 1 million followers to be successful. I have a good following, a loyal following, people who buy into high performance. And, that's certainly come from a lot of the work that I've done with the athletes and some of the publications that I've had. And we've had, in lockdown, we had 30 episodes on Sky Sports called Fighting Fit, where I was putting people through their paces to do home workouts to try and, improve the health of the nation, which is quite cool. And that helped the brand as well. Recently, the Independent article, which got the headline, really cringed me out when I first read it. But actually, it was probably quite good for the business. I think it said, meet the guy who coaches world champion boxers, Premier League footballers and millionaire CEOs. I thought, no, my business is over. And I actually sat with them. I thought, in the independent, that's actually quite good. So yeah,
I think for guys, your kind of age, it's very difficult for us because, like you, I grew up. You're on your principles, you're on your values, and with my parents, what was always instilled in me: you work hard, you don't shout about your success, you just get on with it.
Yeah.
People will know what you do. But now it's like I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. I was always very like, we didn't really shout about what we did. We just believed our hard work would shine through. Yeah. And now you realise you've got to a point where, because everyone else is shouting so loud, unless you shout a little bit,
forgotten about.
You've forgotten about. And sometimes I see myself making statements in releases and stuff now, and I think, okay, now that's a bit bold, like you said with that.
Yeah.
But in reality, because there is so much out there, unless you go that big, it just gets lost in the noise.
You're so right. And going back to like my personality traits, if we're going to, sorry for the third person, talk about the Dan Lawrence here, is look, I am an introvert, right? I don't want to shout about it. And I think key as well is that it's not about me with the athletes, it's about the athlete, right? And even now, like, the client is the champion of their story. It's not me. We facilitate, we assist that. So I think we've got to be quite cute and tactile and careful, even forward facing on social media, of saying like, not that, oh, we do all of this, we did all of this, we got this person to that goal. They got to the goal. We just built the plan to assist them with that and nudge them in the right direction. So I think even now, like, yes, I will shout about it more. Yes, I'm jumping on podcasts and, I've got our mutual friend Kevin doing the socials and the branding and doing a great job and telling me to get in front of the camera a little bit more, which I actually don't mind now. I quite enjoy talking about high performance, if I'm honest. But yeah, I do still think there's a bit of an art to it, certainly in pro sport. I saw it, and I won't mention, but I saw it most recently. I was in Quintadilabo. I do a camp every year with Premier League footballers in the off season. There was a guy there, a coach, and he literally had his camera out, a proper camera, not a phone, in the gym. For me, there was no coaching going on, and it was just like, granted, it all looked good on socials, but for me, that's just not me. That goes against what I'm about. I'd much rather pay a videographer to come in for one of the days, me coach, he gets it, we get the content. So I think, again, there is an art to it as well, and it's got to be done the right way, in my opinion. Yeah. And particularly with your industry, I mean, as you said before, the spike in it has just been colossal. Obviously, fantastic in some ways and negative in other ways that you... Put it this way, some of the people that you come across in Dubai, but I think across the world in general, but as usual, everything is amplified in Dubai, is there are people billing themselves as high-performance coaches, people billing themselves as these unbelievable results. 2-3 years ago, they were doing something completely different, Now, the bottom line is you can't build up the necessary knowledge in that period of time. So have you seen that harder and harder with people who maybe don't have the skill set but can shout louder? Yeah, and it goes back to our point of like health, performance, fitness, whatever we're calling it, wellness. It is such a profitable vertical at the moment, so people are jumping on it. And look, I my younger self probably would have been a bit more negative towards it. I'm kind of just focused on my own journey now, so I do believe the cream rises. But yeah, you're completely right, is that within a couple of years, like, they're now talking about them being this top incredible coach. And I think, look, that takes a body of work. It takes hard yards. I put a lot of hard yards in to get where I am now, and thankfully I can be quite tactile in who I work with. But yeah, look, it is what it is. I'm not going to kind of lose sleep over that, but I think we just have to be quite true to ourselves and specific with what we do. And I suppose, look, our USP comparatively to blocking out the noise and it being a very saturated market, and certainly in Dubai as well, Jamie, like, the standard of coaching here is shocking. Going into some of the gyms, it's really, really bad. No care or understanding for the client, or understanding around physiology, psychology and biomechanics. But our USP is we've got a world-class team. Everyone works in pro sport. We've coached over 40 champion athletes. We've got, just a huge body of work. So we don't want to talk to everyone. Like, we only work with a select number of people, the right type of people, the people who actually want to make a change. I think that's quite a power play as well, is like, try and talk to everyone, resonate with no one. We know
that age-old saying, isn't it? You talk to everyone, you talk to no one.
So we know who we're talking to. And look, if we can give guidance and advice to people who don't want to invest in our program, absolutely fine. I've been doing it for so long. Like, you've seen the value we put out on social channels, and people want to take it to the next level. We'll have a conversation. If they're not a fit, then they're not a fit. If they are, let's do this. Yeah,
and achieve some unbelievable things. Well, it's been fantastic chatting with you today. We're just going to finish off with a few sort of key points. So for everyone out there, whether they're an aspiring athlete, if they're an aspiring businessman, if there's someone who's already on that journey, what are the main lessons you've taken from champions in every sector of life that they can take into their own lives?
Get crystal clear of what success looks like would be step one. You got to know where you're going, right? And that, using the SMART acronym, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and over a set time frame. So if you're recalibrating your focus now, just start with that. And don't go crazy right away would be my next one. Like, start where you stand. Don't go from zero to hero too quickly. Create an environment that sets you up for success. Environment dictates outcomes. Tony Robbins said, you lay down with dogs, you come up with fleas, right? And we've seen it. We've spoken quite in depth on environment here, is the tall popper syndrome, people chopping you down when you're trying to climb the proverbial ladder and access the next level. So if that's the case, I had this with running actually, Jamie, and I've said, I've done a half marathon today, but I did not used to like running. In fact, I identified as a non-runner. I completely banished that chat because I was anchoring a negative towards running. I've now signed up to the Burst to Burst half as well, so I'm going for it, and I'm feeling great. Like, body's feeling really, really good with doing running, and I run now mainly by myself. I ran with a friend today, which I never thought I'd be doing, but at the time with getting into running, I lived in Richmond in London, and my friend used to pick me up, drive us to Richmond Park, so beautiful surroundings, if you know it, beautiful. Everyone's health conscious, bikes, running, lots of deer, it's beautiful surroundings. We had great, powerful conversations. He's in finance, growth mindset, great chat. And then at the end, we had a reward mechanism where we'd sit down, we'd have a coffee, and then he dropped me home. So you can see the friction in there, minimal, right? There was no friction. It wasn't like I was going out raining by myself at 5 a.m. in the morning. So that got me into running. That got my wheels in motion, so to speak. And now I can go out and do a half marathon by myself. But it started with setting my environment up for success. So maybe just have a look at those around you. And if you're choosing a gym partner, find someone who's maybe a little bit ahead of you. If you're choosing a gym, don't choose a gym that's 40 minutes away. Choose one that's 5 minutes away. Remove all friction. Go and buy some new gym gear when you reach a goal, going back to your goals, because there's the reward mechanism. So I think, look, there's a few there. And as much as I can say be relentless, it really depends on where someone is at on their journey. If it's health and performance, just start small, get the wheels in motion, get the inertia going, and then recalibrate over time. So, maybe break things down into smaller blocks and smaller chunks. You might have a 6 or 12 month goal. It might be aesthetics driven. If you're going away in a pair of Vilbicrim swimmers with the boys in the summer, absolutely fine.
My favourite brand, that one.
Same, mate. That's all I wear. But that's 6 months away. That might be too far. So let's reverse engineer. Let's break that down into maybe 4 blocks, or even further. Let's break that down into a 30-day accelerator strategy. What am I looking to achieve over the next 30 days? If you can then have some friends and you've got this kind of community going on, you're bantering each other and you're checking everyone's data on Strava, that's what I mean. That's the great way to set you up for success.
There's nothing that ever pushes people like community. It's like if you find a great paddle group, you're playing paddle all the time. If you've got a great five-a-side team, you just want to play. Yeah. But it's been a fantastic chat today. It's reiterated so many of the points we've talked about on here before, because for our listeners who listen a lot, they'll know I always bang on about my 3 pillars, which are discipline, routine, and consistency. And I'm like the biggest believer that those 3 things, and what you said today is similar in principle, definitely, to nailing them down. For anyone listening today who's thought, this is the guy for me, I need to have a chat with him, I want to sort my life out for 2025, they might have a big exit coming up for their business or big strategy plans, they need that extra push. How can people get hold of you? Where can they speak to you in Dubai?
Firstly, Jamie, thanks for having me. Great conversation. I love the research you did ahead of this as well. It's helped with the conversation for sure. And look, social media, we have a page, Perform 365. My own page is Dan Lawrence 365. We've got YouTube and all things like that. But look, whether they want to work with me, whether they don't, even they just want a bit of advice and resonate with some of the things today, then please just shoot me a message, because we've got loads of free resource. I can send them some bits there. And of course, if someone is looking to really unlock the next level, then I'd love to have that conversation.
Amazing. Well, I'm feeling super motivated today. I watched Don't Die on Netflix last night. I've had the chat with you today. Probably find me running down Sheikh Zayed Road later. But brilliant, Dan. Really enjoyed this conversation today. Thank you so much for coming in. To everyone watching, we've got some unbelievable guests from an array of industries lined up over the next few months. We've got some big surprises with some great sponsors who have jumped on the bandwagon after our start last year. So we've got some really, really great stuff coming up. Please do follow us on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. The more people that subscribe, the more we can put into this. And we look forward to learning lots together this year. Thank you very much.